So how much public involvement do you think is appropriate at like a decision like this? You know, there's a contract for the first school that would be turned over to
Well,
to be
Domus was
managed.
one we already turned over, of
Right.
course. So
Well, this would be the first for-profit company.
Well, you're parsing it now. I mean, we've contracted out schools. Come on.
Sure.
We've contracted out schools before. We've had a process. It was generally well reviewed and accepted. I mean, I think what people really look to see is, well, how do they do? And I think that's the real point here: is how do they really do with the school that they're assigned to manage?
To me, you know, had the notice gone out on Friday and been posted Friday, someone would have to be in the clerk's office Friday to know about this meeting Monday. And it's kind of, you know, from what I heard at A&F, like the Renaissance has really already been working at the school. So is that a transparent process to you to have,
I think,
you know?
I think the process about, obviously, that this is a Tier 3 school was announced months ago. That it was going to be reconstituted was announced months ago. What this was who's going to do that, and I think the process this school board has of relying on the staff to engage this, to talk with the teachers and such, is a fair process. I suppose you can always have more process, but at a certain point, this has been an issue where I think we've been way out there explaining to people how this works, and been particularly acutely conscious about the low-performing schools engaging parents, talking to teachers, moving them around. So, I mean, you could always have another meeting, and we're going to have another meeting here, but I think to the point of qualifications of Renaissance, to do that, that's the point of this meeting would have been. If the school board felt satisfied, they would have approved it, and if they didn't, they wouldn't have approved it, and we would have continued our site.
It seems like outreach was done to parents and to staff at Clemente, but if you're a member of the public or a taxpayer, you know, someone who cares about this, you'd probably have a very hard time knowing about this meeting, you know, if it weren't for news stories that sort of announced the meeting time.
Yeah, maybe. I think, again, everyone knew that this was coming about Clemente. I mean, everyone knew it was going to be there, that's following this, and that's a party at interest to this. So everyone knew we were going to do this with these schools, and we're going to do it with Tier 3 schools next year. And we announced those schools months and months in advance. So again, I think it's been a pretty well noticed process that articulates what we're doing.
Can I just ask you about the meeting last week with parents? I mean, is that something that you believe, you know, the parents are discussing at Clemente, the changes at their school? Is that something you believe should be open to the public?
I think there's a place for a public discussion of it, and I think there's also a discussion, particularly with staff, to do it in a way that staff feels reassured and valued as to what's going on. So I wasn't particularly concerned about
Do you think
that.
Tony Dawson, at his campaign announcement on the weekend, he said he feels like the school reform effort has not done a great job at transparency?
You know, I think that's politics, and what I'm really focused on is how do we create great learning environments for our kids, and I think doing things like reconstituting low-performing schools, removing the adults, having them apply to get back into the school, different kinds of approaches are pretty groundbreaking and have been well received by the district, and that's what we do in the real world.